Manzardo discussion.
Yeah, guys, tonight we take on the Mariners one last time, but if you want, free shirt day is tomorrow for the first 10,000 listeners or 10,000 attendees at the Guardians game, and there's no better place to get your tickets than Game Time. You can save up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, so much more. You can get a panoramic view of your seat so you know exactly where you're sitting, and right now the cheapest deal on Game Time is Upper Deck, 546 row C for $32 a piece. Go get your free t-shirts tomorrow. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase guaranteed. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and then redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
So to make room for Jose Ramirez coming off the paternity list, the Guardians sent Kyle Manzardo back to AAA. His stint with the Guardians on the major league level, I would say was disappointing, but not terribly disappointing. The power numbers weren't there. He hit 207. Jason, right move, wrong move? Do you agree with the move to send Kyle Manzardo back to the minors to get more consistent at-bats?
No, I'd like to have seen him stay up and play. I think you saw, like, this is who he is. He's a gaps hitter. He's a doubles guy. He doesn't have a ton of over-the-fence power right now, but who else didn't early in his career? Josh Naylor.
Yeah.
And look at Naylor now. So I think it's in there. He'll get to it eventually. I don't look at this as some massive setback that he's back in AAA. Obviously, those numbers don't look great. I felt like he did put together some really good at-bats, though, and he was starting to feel a little comfortable. And I would like to see him in the majors. I think he's going to be a big part of this team moving forward. But if they make a move at the deadline for a more proven bat, that will offset this to me. But I don't look at this as some major disappointment that, oh my goodness, Manzardo had to go back to AAA. I think it felt to me like they were kind of positioning that as a possibility when they brought him up in the first place. And how many times do you see it? A guy comes up, struggles a little bit, goes back down, figures some things up, comes back up, and never goes back to AAA again. And hopefully that'll be the case with Manzardo. I think he'll be back this year. It's only June. It's not even the All-Star break yet. I think he'll be back.
So if he does come back, how are they rolling him defensively?
Well, that's the thing.
He never played the field.
That's what I'm saying. So was he just DHing the whole way?
Yeah, and they talked about playing him in the outfield, which I. But and it's tough because like Naylor's earned the right to be the first baseman, and if Josh would rather play first than DH, a lot of times you're gonna defer to your veteran on that. But it just feels like you got to create more opportunities for Kyle to play the field. When you go from being a first baseman playing every day to only being a DH, I remember talking to Travis Hafner years ago about how hard that can be on guys when if you strike out, you got nothing to do for 45 minutes, but think about that strikeout. And although baseball games move so much faster now, you're probably hitting again in 15, 20 minutes. But, all you do, you go back down to the cage and you take some more swings. You have nothing else to consume your time with other than that strikeout that you just had, and guys can just fester with this. That's why some guys don't like DHing, because they don't do it. That's all they do is hit, and then you got to go back and sit down again and wait for your next at bat when you're not in the field. You would like to see more opportunities for Kyle in the field, and maybe it helps him at the plate find a little bit of a rhythm, just being able to get more into a routine. But with Naylor in front of him, a lot of times you're going to defer to the veteran.
I was always a little bit confused on how they utilized Manzardo since bringing him up, mostly because, to your point, he just never seemed to get in a rhythm. Even when he was getting at-bats, he was moving up and down in the lineup. Yeah. He was never playing in the field. Believe it or not, despite his numbers and his traditional counting stats, 207 batting average, no homers, 7 RBIs, his OPS was sub 600, he's fourth on the team in doubles. Despite missing, and by missing, he wasn't called up when the season started. He wasn't playing every day. He wasn't getting consistent at-bats. He has 10 doubles, which is tied for fourth on the team. So he was doing what I think the Guardians expected in that sense, but he didn't live up to the hype of, hey, this is a can't-miss guy, a can't-miss bat that we're going to add to our lineup. He didn't have the power. And if he's getting sent down to Columbus to get more consistent at-bats, he had 9 homers and 102 at-bats in Columbus. Like, he showed power in AAA. Now, granted, I think it was a little over-exaggerated to what their even expectations were for him. But he had 82 at-bats in the majors without a single home run.
Yeah.
It was a stark difference, and it happens to prospects. Jackson Holliday got called up earlier for Baltimore.
He was
the number one prospect in baseball. He hit He was like 1 of 34. So it wasn't a catastrophe to that extent. But I had higher expectations. I'll just be honest. I had higher expectations for Manzardo when he got called up. And even though he showed glimpses and flashes of promise, it never was enough to meet my expectation for them calling up their top hitting prospect.
What is the background on Daniel Schneeman?
A career minor league guy who just figured he's just a late bloomer. He just figured
Because
he plays every position.
See, and that's the thing. Like, he got called up, and I don't think he did well last night, but this past weekend he was hitting, and he's been hitting very well. I think he's batting like 300. I think he's batting over 300 right now. Now, limited plate actions, but still. And I think that they had those kind of expectations maybe for Kyle Manzardo. They kind of thought that he'd probably be batting like that. So I think maybe, do you think the fact that Schneeman is batting so well in the lineup that they were okay with sending Manzardo down? Like, do you think that played a part in it?
No, I think it was just when your DH is hitting 200 with no home runs, you're probably looking for more production out of that spot. And, David Fry's obviously been swinging it well. You mentioned Schneeman's been swinging it well. And those guys are more versatile and can play more. David Fry can play catcher, outfield, first base.
Schneeman can play everywhere,
can play
too.
Anywhere in the field. You can literally, you put him second base, shortstop, outfield. You put him anywhere. And the Guardians thrive on that. They love positional versatility and flexibility and guys who can play multiple spots. I don't think Manzardo in right field is a very good idea. They've tried that with Josh Naylor a few years ago and had a horrendous injury out there. Horrendous. So some guys are they are what they are. And that probably hurt Kyle a little bit in this. But to your point about Schneeman, I mean, Whit Merrifield is a prime example of a guy who spent his career in the Royals minor leagues and then at 27, 28, figured some things out and became a late blooming all-star.
Yeah.
A really, really good player.
Yeah.
Like a really
one of the
good
best
player.
hitters in the game in his prime. Merrifield, for a couple of years stretch there, was a terrific hitter. And it's just, that's why this game is so wild, man. It clicks for guys at different ages, at different times in their career, and there's no riddle to figure out when that's going to happen. With a guy like Schneeman, he was 27 now and getting his chance. David Fry, very similar, late bloomer, late in his career. Corey Kluber was a late bloomer, late in his career, sort of figured things out and became a multiple-time Cy Young winner. So and that's why small market teams don't like giving up on their guys, because there's nothing more gutting than to give up on a guy. Go back to, I just lost his name, the third baseman, bounced around, really good defensive third baseman, played for the Yankees, the Blue Jays, was here for a while. Elite defensively, could never hit.
Matt Chapman?
No, I'll think of it in a minute.
Fran
I can't believe I forgot it.
Reyes is who you think
But he was elite defensively. And,
no, that wasn't Fran Neal.
But they finally gave up on his bat, and then he goes to New York, and it clicks for him late in his career. And he put together, was never an all-star, but put together some multiple productive years for other teams, and that's gutting to a franchise like Cleveland. Like when they spend all these years investing their guys, they got to get a payoff on that.
So at the trade deadline,
Giovanni Urshela, got it.
Urshela, there you
at
go.
the trade deadline, if they decided to trade Manzardo, that would be you'd be.
Oh, that's not happening.
I was just asking.
No, that's not.
I was
Like,
just asking.
and Bull and I have had this conversation. Like, anybody's available. This is a push all in type. But there are other guys that you can trade that other teams would be interested in that you don't have to move. I'm telling you right now, he is the Josh Naylor replacement. I know nobody wants to hear that.
What about Rodriguez?
Jonathan
He
Rodriguez?
plays right field, different position.
Yeah, he's an outfielder.
And he's not the caliber of prospect that Kyle Manzardo.
No.
No. Yeah, Manzardo. Yeah,
Manzardo's a top 100. Like, that's a big thing in baseball. If you're a top 100 guy, everybody has a top 100 list. Major League Baseball puts that out. Baseball America has theirs. At The Athletic, we have our guy Keith Law, who does a phenomenal job. He has his own top 100 list. And sometimes there's wide variance between guys, that one guy's 15 and one guy's 62. But for the most part, they're about the same.
And Kyle Manzardo's on everybody's.
Manzardo was top 50.
Okay. It's the equivalent of a lottery pick, Tyvus, in basketball. Think of it as he's a lottery pick and Jonathan Rodriguez is a second round pick in that sense. Yeah. We'll move on in one sec, but it is interesting because, or one thing I found interesting in this whole decision is they had other options of guys to at least consider to send down to make room for Jose.
Yeah.
And one guy I want to bring up real quick, and I forget who tweeted this out, but it was a funny tweet, and I have a question that follows up on the tweet, but essentially said, the Guardians are paying Austin Hedges $4 million to be a vibes guy and an assistant coach.
What do you think you're paying me for?
I know, but it's in a sense they already have two catchers, Naylor, who I guess in theory they could have sent down as well, but you have David Fry who's doing most of the backup catching. Hedges, as much as we love Austin Hedges, he is the biggest liability at the plate of probably any real major leaguer in baseball. Phenomenal defensively and phenomenal vibes guy, phenomenal clubhouse guy, and he might essentially be an assistant coach.
Championship.
But like, there's never been
experience.
There's never been an even thought for 1 second of sending Hedges down.
Well, no, you wouldn't do that to a veteran like
that.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you would DFA him before you would option him down. I don't even know if he has any options left at this point. But and I hear what you're saying, and you're right. But they felt like there was such a hole in their clubhouse last year, when last year was a very miserable season, and by their standards, one of the first things that they did was run back out and get him. Like, that's how important he is to the fabric of this organization right now. No, he can't hit, but I don't think it's coincidence that Bo has become
a really
the type
good
of
defensive catcher,
pitch framer, defensive catcher that he has. Sandy Alomar, Gold Glove winner. Austin Hedges is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. I don't know if he's got a Gold Glove or not. I can't remember in San Diego if he did or not. But one of the very best defensive catchers. Obviously, Vogt was a catcher. Bo Naylor has all the resources at his disposal to be one of the very best defensive catchers in baseball. And the progress that you've seen this year, I believe, is a result of all the people that they have on staff there. And I get frustrated with Bo too, and I say, sometimes in moments of frustration, man, just put David Fry back there and call it. Like, just get some offense back there. But I get what they're doing. I understand why they have Naylor back there every day, why they keep running him out there even though he's hitting 180. But a big part of Hedges' job, I believe, is working with Bo, making him the type of defensive catcher that he is. I'm not sure that Naylor is as good as he is this year defensively if Hedges is still in Pittsburgh or Texas or somewhere else.
I feel very confidently saying he's not the defensive catcher he is if it isn't for the tutelage of Hedges and Alomar and Vogt all coming together to kind of, because that was the weak part of his game coming up.
Yeah.
The bat was the good part. Yeah. The glove was the questionable part, and now it's been completely flipped on its head.
I put him in the Manzardo category. I know he did have some success last year, but he's still a really young guy. Yeah. And early on in your career, there's going to be wild swings of a great play, and you look like you belong in AA, not even AAA. That's just the way it goes. Hopefully, if he gets through that this year, next year he can get a little bit more success. I just think a lot of times we get so reactionary, and me too, you get so reactionary to what you see in that moment, you kind of lose perspective of the bigger picture.
Well, he hit it well yesterday, so
he did.
Hopefully we can just keep it in going in a rhythm.
And we'll keep an eye on Kyle Manzardo in AAA. Hopefully he finds a little bit more of the power swing back as he heads to Columbus facing AAA pitching, and I'm sure we'll see him again on the Major League Club this season. And let's do a read. We'll move on, talk a little Cavs.